talk about trans. This topic was requested by a dear friend of mine, Amanda Branch, who also helped me with whatever I'm going to say here, with statistics and everything. And I believe transgender is still a very important issue. Not that trans people are the issue here, they are definitely not. The issue is how trans people get treated by people, celebrities, government, churches, and everything else. Cambridge Dictionary says it's used to describe someone who feels that they are not the same gender as the gender they were said to have when they were born. That's very nice, thank you very much, but it's not quite true, because it isn't a feeling, it's a fact. The term transgender is an umbrella term, meaning that different gender identities can fit underneath it, like demigender, non-binary, gender fluid, gender queer, and stuff like that. By the way, the opposite of trans is not normal. The opposite of trans is cisgender, meaning that people identify with the gender they were assigned with at birth. Nothing is normal. Everything is cake. Sadly, trans people are discriminated all over the world. Some have it worse, some have it better, but it's a fact that trans people face discrimination. So in 2008, the National Center for Transgender Equality and the National LGBTQ Task Force, which is an awesome name, I think, formed a groundbreaking research partnership to address this problem, launching the first comprehensive national transgender discrimination study. So, the data collected brings into clear focus the pervasiveness and overwhelming collective weight of discrimination that transgender and gender non-conforming people endure. 63% of our participants experience serious acts of discrimination, events that would have major impact on a person's quality of life and ability to sustain themselves financially or emotionally. And the participants reported that they had faced loss of job, eviction, school bullying, teacher bullying, physical assault, sexual assault, homelessness, loss of relationship, denial of medical service, incarceration, and so on. What a hellhole! Seriously, no wonder the suicide rates of trans people are so high. For example, in the USA, the suicide rates of trans people is 10 times higher than of other people. And I will never understand why some people just react with discrimination and hate and fear when it comes to trans people. Trans people only want to live their life in peace, and they only want to be themselves in peace. They are not a threat. I for myself never really had any contact to trans people. I knew the term trans, but I knew it in a very basic way. Like, trans was, for me it was a man born in a woman's body or a woman born in a man's body. And I couldn't really grasp the nuance and all the Vielfalt. Diversity, there it is, and all the diversity that comes with the term trans. In school, we also never really talked about it, because, I mean, I was in a private Catholic school, so we never really talked about LGBTQ stuff. We rather talked about the Bible and a person who could walk on water than about real life as people. But it was good in some ways, and it was not so good in other ways. But all in all, it was a good school. I just don't have any LGBTQ education from school. Everything I know because I educated myself and because I nowadays know a lot of LGBTQ people. But the first time I ever was confronted with trans was when I was in a car with my sister, and I think we talked about Against Me, or we listened to Against Me. That's a very, very awesome punk rock band. And then my sister said, hey, the frontman is transgender. And I was like, fuck. Will she change her voice? And yeah, that was really kind of my only issue I had, because I feared that the songs would be different, that she wouldn't have such an awesome voice like she had before transitioning. Let me tell you, damn girl, she's so awesome. She is so hot. She's an wow, boy. The band is way better with her that way than it was before because she is free and she is herself and she's a powerful woman and I seriously love her. Her name is Lower Chain Grace, by the way. Nowadays, I know a lot more trans people, and let me tell you a big secret. Years of underground friendship with non-cis humans brought to my attention that there is indeed a trans agenda, and it's top secret. But if you want, I will tell you what the top secret trans agenda is. Do you wanna know the secret? They are just humans who want to live in peace. Shocker, I know. But this is the only trans agenda there is, seriously. Sadly, so many people just can't get it. For example, Lee Mokobe made a wonderful TED Talk, which is called A Powerful Poem About What It Feels Like to Be Transgender. And he says, I quote, "No one thinks of us as humans because we are more ghost than flesh, because people fear that my gender expression is a trick that exists to be perverse, that it ensnares them without consent." And later he even says, "Can you see how easy it is to talk people into coffins?" And this is so deep. Can you see how easy it is to talk people into coffins? Because trans people are literally dying all over the world. But there is little sweet Karen fearing that the man in women's dresses will come into the bathroom and rape her. Newsflash, men don't have to wear women's gloves to go and rape women. They can do that without this. They do it all the time. They don't need to wear women's gloves and dresses and stuff like that. And another newsflash. Trans women are not men wearing women's gloves. Trans women are women wearing gloves. Easy as that. Talking about restroom, we have to address the elephant in the room. I have an elephant in the room. Oh, I have to show you. It's so cute. Okay, I seriously don't know where my girlfriend put my elephant. But I will show you next time. Let's address the elephant in the room, meaning the turf in the bathroom, meaning the umbrage in the Forbidden Forest. JK Rowling! Yay! I don't know when her turf thing started, but I remember when she retweeted that she's on the side of a woman called Maya Forstetter. Who is that? Normally, I wouldn't care, but for this video I researched and I only wanted to explain what happened, but she wrote a blog. And I'm seeing this, and well, the issue was that she tweeted that trans women are not women at all, and then she got fired, and then JK Rowling retweeted and said, "Oh, we have to help her, I stand by her side, blah 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 blah." And I thought that was it, but she has a blog where she talks about sex and gender. A woman who says that trans women are not women has a blog where she tries to educate people about sex and gender. It's so sad. Okay, let's go down this rabbit hole. So I'm looking at her blog, and this was in May 1 BC, meaning 1 year before Corona. She writes that she just stated an opinion and that she lost her job because her bosses discriminated her simply because of an opinion. What is an opinion?
Hier ist die Definition von opinion. A view or judgment formed about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge.
Her German accent is even worse than mine. Not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. And holy shit, her not knowledgeness is showing. Not knowledgeness? Her not knowing anything. Her being a trans no is showing. Trans women are women. Period. I mean, there's nothing to discuss about that. I can't quite understand why people have an issue understanding that. You know, unless they only see women as childbearing, uterus having vaginators, like sexist men. Okay, so let's quote her here. At the same time, I have never believed that women are people who share a common innate sense of gender identity. Women are people born with female bodies. Womanhood does not depend on dressing, acting, or thinking in a feminine way. She just believes in biological sex. That said, it's not scientific, but it happens. But apparently she co-funded a campaign that acted against gender stereotypes when it comes to children's toys, and this is a part where I think, good job. Because stereotypes in children's toys is the devil. No, I'm sorry, it's not the devil, it's just bullshit. It's toxic and it's an indoctrination that hurts children in any way. It hurts boys when you tell them they can't do anything feminine because then they'd be gay, or then they'd be a girl, or stuff like that. And it hurts girls if you tell them that they have to be housewives and have to like pink and stuff like that. If they do, so what? That's okay, but don't force it on people. Don't force it on children who can't defend themselves. And I think it's very nice that she started a campaign who act against that. But sadly, she took a wrong turn after that. And I quote, "We weren't paying attention to how these stereotypes were being repackaged into the new idea of gender identity. That if a girl child doesn't conform to gender norms, she might actually be a boy and vice versa. My dear, this is not what the philosophy of gender identity is about." Sorry. My inner German came out. This is not what the philosophy of gender identity is about. Not at all. The philosophy behind gender identity is exactly what you wish to do when you founded the campaign against gender stereotypes, but you don't seem to understand that, and I don't know why. In her blog, she writes that she then goes on and shares her tweets where she stated that in her belief, the right to identify one's own gender is a threat to women's rights. She goes so far and calls a trans woman in jail a man, and this female prisoner apparently assaulted and raped his fellow inmates. And Maya sees this woman as an example of how men in dresses are a threat to women. Newsflash: women can be rapists and predators too. What makes this inmate so dangerous is not the fact that she's trans, it's the fact that she's a rapist and a predator. It has nothing to do with her being trans. She's just an asshole. Duh. She proceeds in explaining that she wrote over 150 tweets in a few weeks and addressed her issues with trans people. For example, she states, "Why does it matter? Because women are discriminated against because of their sex. So we need to be able to name that. Because women need reproductive rights. So we need to be able to name that. Because words spell boundaries for privacy and body autonomy. Because risk assessment." Okay, well, why do trans rights matter? Because trans people are discriminated because of their gender. We need to be able to name that because trans people need human rights and so on. I'm not saying that trans rights are more important than women's rights. That's not at all what I'm saying, because trans women are women too, by the way. Women's rights are a huge issue all over the world. I know that. We need to fight for women. But for the love of Spock, trans people are not a threat. Toxic masculinity, stereotypes, religion, misogyny, patriarchy, blah blah blah, those are the issues. Trans people are not a threat to cis women. Seriously, get your facts together. So she goes on and on about her tweets, opinions and fight, and then she tells us that she got a memo from her boss. And the boss told her to use a warning on her Twitter feed that Twitter users may be warned that her tweets will maybe be offensive, because her tweets are offensive to many people. She just ignores what her boss told her, and she tweets on for months and months and months, and then her contract didn't get renewed. So she didn't get fired. Her contract expired, and they didn't renew it. That's all. It happens to all of us. Well, JK Rowling got wind of that and posted a tweet about supporting force data for only sharing the truth, which is not the truth as we know, but JK Rowling doesn't seem to quite know what the difference between fantasy and fiction and non-fiction is, because she can't quite seem to get out of a Harry Potter universe, and I get it. It's a nice universe, but welcome to reality, baby. She tweeted, "Dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who'll have you, live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real. Hashtag I stand with Maya. Hashtag this is not a drill." She was not forced out of her job. Her contract expired. There was no forcing involved. It's ugh. And the fact that she dismisses trans lives as dress however or name whatever the fuck shows how she can't grasp the situation. And it's not a lifestyle, Joanne. It's not a choice. It's an identity. And also, biological sex is real, yes, but gender is even realer. Gender is a social construct, yeah, and it happens inside your head. And brain scans can prove that. If you scan the brains of a trans woman, a cis woman, and a cis man, the brain scans of the trans woman are similar to the brain scans of the cis woman and not so similar of the brain scans to the cis man. Because she's a woman. Duh! It doesn't matter what's between her legs. Your brain decides what you are. Well, your brain decides who you are. Yes. So this was in December 2019, and it's not the first time people saw JK Rowling retweet something transphobic or liking something transphobic. In 2018, she liked a tweet that described trans women as men in dresses, and she also retweeted a transphobic essay of Harvey Cheney, and so on. I don't know Harvey Cheney. I haven't read the transphobic essay. I just know that JK Rowling retweeted it, and I haven't looked that much into it because spoons. Cold tea, I know, but JK didn't stop. Oh, how I wished she would just stop. This year, she compared hormone therapy with conversion therapy. No, it's not the same. She also stated that transitioning could be the answer for some people, but one should listen to detransitioners. Yes, Joanne, listen to detransitioners. Seriously, studies show that detransition doesn't happen that often. Just want you to believe that. And even when the detransition happens, it has various reasons. And yes, of course, some reasons are that the person who detransitions doesn't feel right in their body. They feel like how they change their body still doesn't fit their gender, and they detransition back because they feel better in their old body, and that is valid. It's totally fine. It's okay. Sadly, there are also a few examples where transitioning destroyed the person's life and stuff like that, and it's very sad and it's very valid, but it's not that often. One reason for detransitioning is also discrimination, isolation, loss of families and friends. So it's like blackmailing people back into the old body when you say, yeah, you transitioned now, but ugh, I don't like it. It's so sad. I will leave you now. Goodbye. That's not really nice, you know? And it's toxic behavior, and people detransitioning because of that are usually not so happy after the detransitioning. They just do it to not lose their families and friends. And maybe they would be way more happy in their transition body, but they don't have the support to do it, and that is really sad. Another thing a trans friend of mine told me is that it costs a lot, and sometimes you can't just go through with it because the hormone therapy is a long-term cost, and you don't have the money for that. Or the healthcare. USA. USA. Detransitioning doesn't necessarily show that transitioning is a bad thing, but it obviously shows that society is still a shit show for trans people. Rowling also wrote an essay she calls Turf Wars, which I haven't read, but for this video I'm going to do that, and oh boy. Okay, so I wrote a little bit, and so far nothing really interesting to me happens, but that one sentence, listen. TERF is an acronym coined by trans activists, which stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. In practice, a huge and diverse cross-section of women are currently being called TERFs, and the vast majority have never been radical feminists. You're right. You can't be a feminist if you discriminate women in any way, like POC women, trans women, non-binary women. You can't be a feminist, not even a radical feminist, if you discriminate women or people in general. You're just an asshole if you do that. The vast majority have never been feminists. That is right. You are not feminists. She goes on, ironically, radical feminists aren't even trans exclusionary. They include trans men in their feminism because they were born women. Okay, she goes on with 5 reasons why she's a TERF. Well, and one reason is that she was abused and assaulted really badly during her life. I'm truly sorry for that. I don't wish anybody to suffer from assault or abuse in any way, and I know that mostly minorities like women, POC, queer people, and people like that face a lot of violence during their life, and it's not okay. And I know how it feels. And I feel sorry for JK Rowling. I hope she is in a safe place now. I hope she has the help she needs, and I hope she can heal. I also hope that she can fight for a world without violence, but sadly, when it comes to trans people, she just can't. However, my sympathies end here. So I want trans women to be safe. At the same time, I do not want to make natal girls and women less safe. When you throw open the doors of bathrooms and changing rooms to any man who believes or feels he's a woman, and as I've said, gender confirmation certificates may now be granted without any need for surgery or hormones, then you open the door to any and all men who wish to come inside. That is the simple truth. No. No, it's not. It's just not. Like, yes, we need to protect minorities, women, POC, queers. Yes, I know. We need to protect them from abuse and harm. This is a very important issue, but the harm usually comes from above and not from below, and trans people are not above women when it comes to privilege. Toxic masculinity, patriarchism, capitalism, religion, misogyny, government stuff, everything. This is above. This has the privilege to make harm, do harm for women, but not trans people. And if you don't trust common sense, I have something else. UCLA study finds that there's literally no link between trans people in a bathroom and the risk to your safety. There is no link. Like I said, men don't have to wear dresses to assault women. They do it all the time. They don't wear dresses. But of course she didn't listen to common sense, and she didn't read the study of UCLA, or she didn't want to read or understand it. I don't know. No, she made it worse. She made a book about a cis man dressed in women's clothes murdering people. And people ask us why we are mad at her. You know, it's not the fact that the murderer is a man in women's clothes. That's not why we are mad. We are mad because JK Rowling believes that trans women are men in women's clothes and are there to threaten the safety of cis women and to take away their rights and stuff like that. And then she proceeds to create a book sharing this view with thousands of people. She's a best-selling author. She has so many people following her, and this views she has about trans people is toxic and dangerous. And putting these views into the book, it's so dangerous. You know, the suicide rates of trans people is so high. Don't push them to the edge, please. And it's the whole lack of empathy and understanding. It's this ignorance. And also let's talk about her alter ego, Robert Galbraith. I know that many women use alter egos or their initials or anything, so their books will more likely get bought Because let's face it, the world of literature and music and art and everything else is still male dominated, and books written by women are not bought as often as books written by men, not because they are bad, but because they are written by women. I don't have a problem with using initials on alter ego. I mean, I for myself use an alter ego. I don't use my normal name in any of my social media stuff, and it's fine. It's okay. People do that. That's not the issue. The issue is where the name comes from. So, there's a Dr. Robert Galbraith Heath, and he was an American psychologist, and he was famous for his unethical electroshock gay conversion therapy he tried in 1953. It's not that long ago. The guy died in, I don't know, 1999? 1999 is not that long ago. I was born 1993. It's not that long ago. I'm not that old. No, I'm not that old. You can't tell me that a best-selling author, an educated woman, chooses this name, Robert Galbraith, and doesn't know where it comes from or what the doctor had done if you just can look it up on Wikipedia. You don't have to research it pretty hard. You can just look on Wikipedia. It's just yikes. I don't know why Rowling uses the pseudonym, but I can't believe that she wasn't aware of where it came from or what the person has done. And I won't buy anything from her ever again. I know I won't support her in any way ever again because I can't get along with her trans discrimination, her queer baiting and ignorance and pseudonym, alter ego, and everything she's doing here. It's just so full of white cis privilege, and I'm tired of all of this, seriously. So let's look at Laura Jane Grace again. Trans lives matter, and the suicide rate of trans people is high, and we should all stick together to make life more livable for all of us, especially in a pandemic. So why whine about trans people? Why whine about trans people when we have assholes like Trump or Bezos or anybody else, you know? We have bigger problems than who has which organ in between their legs and why Karen is offended that Laura Jane Grace is way hotter than her. I mean, look! She's so hot. Okay, so this was my tea time talk about transgender, TERFs, JK Rowling, and Laura Jane Grace. Keep on holding, drink some tea. See you soon. Bye.